I can move it this way.
I don't know what people turn. I mean, come in. It's the oven.
Okay, so ready to go?
All set.
So middle of page Tov Nun Dalet, and Ayin Beis, 444. The middle of chapter Reish Chav Dalet, chapter 224. So, as we discussed and elaborated a bit yesterday, the Rebbe Rashab is now tying things together and going back to the Zohar that he began to discuss around 50 pages ago in Perek Kuf Tzadik Beis, as he said. The Zohar that says Kersisa Pella is talking about how Chachma is Mailim on Keser. And he explained the difference between two types of Helam. There's a Helam of a Lavush, like simply a person conceals himself in a garment, or a teacher conceals an idea and an example and a metaphor, where there is a real concealment going on. And this is usually how faculties conceal one another. I gave the example of the fingers when you write something, so your fingers are expressing an idea as you put it into writing, but it's also concealing it. And then there is the concealment of Chachma. Chachma conceals the Keser, and in this case Atik. So he said because Atik is fundamentally doesn't have any Kalim, so really actually has less concealment on its own level, that is, on its own unconscious level. So when Chachma comes to express it, Chachma is concealing, but this type of concealing is only to reveal. So like that's basically what he was saying here.
Which is called is that called like a lavush? There's two types of rachik.
A lavush, a makiv harachik and makiv hakarev.
Right.
No, he's not saying that here. No, he's not comparing that here. That would be more comparable to something we learned earlier. If you remember, there was the makiv erchezer, the makiv pnimi. This is not. This is at all not comparable. I think it's like really two extremes actually. You know, makiv harachik, makiv hakarev are both makiv. One is close and one is distant. One is like a garment and one is a house. For example, house is considered to be a makiv harachik. A garment is makiv hakarev. Here he's talking about a garment that conceals. Another one that's not really a concealer, it's a revealer. It's like this. Since Atik is, I'm trying to find the right words for it. If Atik is an atzmizdik entity, like an essential entity, so it's beyond the word conceal and reveal. It's just an essential entity. It's like etzem hanefesh, in a sense.
It has no.
And now, so in order to bring it out,
it has no aura.
Right, it has no keli.
Also has no aura really.
Well, he says
or it's something that projects out, or
no, but it has or because it's or. It's right away. It's not atzmos, so immediately it's a form of or. Anything that's not the
what is it? What do you think? I couldn't
atik. I mean,
but atzmos.
No, I didn't say. I said it's an atzmi. It's an essential entity.
Oh, atzmi.
Atzmi. But it's still outside of atzmos. It's it's as close as possible. It's like etzem hanefesh. It's the essence of your soul. So is on one hand you can't really call it concealed. Mm-hmm. You just call it it's an entity. But in order for the unconscious to come out, you need something that is, so to speak, concealed.
Just one question: how it goes from atzmos to an aura? That little.
Well, he's not talking about that.
I understand.
Here he's talking more how it comes from Atik into
from an aura to something that we can relate to. But does he ever go into it? How
I'm sure this is a big
how Atzmos goes.
In Samach Vav, there's all kinds. There's whole memorim just on that.
Yeah.
There's 4 or 5 memorim just on that discussion. I've written it up. The memorim of Vayelach, Adam Akim Chamok, Adam Kim Chamok Chaim, and Adam Kiyakir. Are those? It's all about that.
Around what numbers are they? You count from 60 something.
In the Maimar, there's only 61 Maimarim, so it's around 10, 12.
I must have passed it. So I read that.
It's around the Maimarim 10 to 12, I think. Around that area. It's the parsha of B'Shalach. Vayelach is B'Shalach. The parshas of B'Shalach, Mishpatim, those weeks. I'm not sorry, it doesn't have mishpatim. Kisisa, yeah. Zeis chukas. There's four memorim. It goes hachodesh. A new section in Samach Vov itself begins with hachodesh. Starts a new subject, but it goes vayelach, zeis chukas, im kamal krachayim, and adam kiyakriv. Those four discourses. Okay, he even says the chidush of the Alter Rebbe in Eir is how Atzmus comes into Eir. Anyway, but it's that's a different, think of this as, there's a big machine, we're talking about one section here. Okay, so bottom line is that Chochmah is Mailim, like he said, so let's begin where we left off. We'll just do a little overlap. Mashenkin by Halam, the Chochmah is around almost 3, 6, 9, 12, 10 lines from the top of the chapter. Mashenkin by Halam, the Chochmah, in contrast to a levush that actually conceals, is the Halam of Chochmah. Shemaylim alak tainug. Numbers Keser Tainug Atik. It conceals them Tainug. Eina be'efen kazeh. It's not in this way that it conceals like a garment conceals. Macha she'inyan ha'helam hu sha'tainug atzmehu nasa b'chinas chochmah. Because this helam is in the form, not that one thing manifests and dresses up in another level and therefore gets concealed and diminished. The Tainug itself becomes chochmah. As I said, the example he gave was that when you build a house with wisdom, the wisdom is not an external thing. The wisdom is pleasure. We're talking about in Kedusha. And remember, we live in a world of duality. So when you want something, let's say you want a house, or you want something else, so then you look for tools to get it. So the tools and what you want, that's two separate things. But in Elikos, in Kedusha, there's no duality. When God desires something, and then He uses Chochmah, the Chochmah is the desire in the shape of wisdom. So Chochmah really is be'etzem Tainug. It's just how Tainug is being fulfilled. So in that
sense, it is a tool, though.
No, it's a tool. It's still a tool, but it's a different type of expression. It would be more like Tainug is a fundamental expression of God's desire, and then because God has everything available to Him, how the desire fulfilled is God could have done it without Chochmah too.
Well, for our sake, He did that. Right,
exactly. So exactly. So the Chochmah becomes a type of how Tainug manifests in structure. Let's put it that way. Whereas Tainug alone, we wouldn't be able to relate to Chochmah. So once he does it with Chochmah, we too have the same thing. So in essence, when a person really fundamentally wants something, we're talking here in holiness, kedusha, and stuff like that. So then the Chochmah he uses is just an extension of Etzem HaNefesh. See, most of people's wisdom today is used not things that are expressing your inner soul. Someone uses ingenuity to make money, or ingenuity to hurt somebody, or ingenuity to, not that I'm equating the two, but ingenuity in some selfish area. It doesn't mean it's expressing his soul. It just means that's what he's doing. But if a person is, let's say, Etzem HaNefesh, that you feel your neshama, I'll put it this way, the Rebbe's shlichus to this earth is to do a certain thing. And then the Rebbe came up with ideas of how to do it, shlichus, mivtzayim, and so on. That shlichus and mivtzayim is a direct extension of his neshama's purpose. And then he's figuring out a plan how to fulfill that neshama's purpose. So really, Chachma then just an extension of Tainug, in that sense. I mean, it's actually, I think it's Meididik. It's just a fascinating way to look at a life without duality, where all your tools are just an expression of your soul's purpose. I mean, if everyone lived that way, we'd be in good shape.
It's ultimate unity.
Yeah.
It's ultimate unity.
Right. It's like there's no split between who you are and what you do. Like I asked somebody, who are you? They give you your business. They give me their business card. I said, that's what you do. Well, who are you? Who are you is not so simple.
I can tell you I'm not. I'm not Aristotle.
Okay. I'm not Harvey Lang.
No, but that was a famous thing when he said, I'm not Aristotle.
Oh, yeah, this moment. Anyway, so Bezehu Misalim. Hariakisi v'ahelim hazehu atzmi. This type of cover and concealment is a atzmi. It's an atzmizdika type of helam. It's not some type of external thing that is helping something come down a lower level. Is the essence of tainug. The truth is, to understand this, we have to go back to that perek where he talked about it at length. But he's just summing up something that was discussed earlier. So if you don't get it completely, we could always go back there. V'nasa b'chinas chochma, and it became chochma. U'bezeh mesalim b'chinas hatainug ha'atzmi v'hu b'chinas helam gomur.
So you're saying that the
This is
tiny
how the
morphs
tiny-
into chachma, not that there's chachma and then the tiny goes into chachma. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
The tiny itself becomes chachma.
That's what he said earlier. Yeah. That's exactly
It's a
what he said.
morphing of the thing.
Yeah. That's why you say pnimis abba, pnimis atik.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not. Like, for example, this is deeper than when you say, for example, that the shadish of malchus is in keser, or the shadish of teferis goes up the kavem. So, in other words, things have a root. That's a different story. A root is a root.
It's a connection.
Something can fall very low and it has a very deep root.
Right, it's a connection still.
Yeah, right.
It's a separate thing.
This is actually, chachma, in other words, is tainug on another dimension, the dimension of chachma.
Yeah.
So it's changed though. Something.
I know the word change. I don't know if the word change is right. It's manifest in a way that has shape. I mean, this is critical for the mamutza priest. Remember the interface. This is what makes the interface. You don't have this. We're back to square one. Where how do we get into atik? That's why chachma is so critical here, because the chachma is tima. In other words, the unconscious mind ultimately is a bridge between that which is the essence of the soul and the conscious mind. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And we talked about it already before in different words how that works. But here he's now tying it up and he's connecting like that connection between the chachmas tima, pnimis chachmas tima, into atik, the tiny part. Okay. Hari. V'zeu in b'chinas hastimus the pnimis chachmas tima. And this is the stimus. This is the fundamental concealment of the level of pnimius of chachmas tima. The pnimius of the unconscious, of the hidden chachma. Shesosa v'nelam be'etzem. That is, be'etzem, fundamentally concealed and hidden. If you recall, he spoke about two different types of concealment earlier. One was that's the makif of Erchez, the makif of Eresha. One is a concealment that's just concealed, and it's just a matter of time. It would be like a teacher is teaching something to a student. So right now it's still concealed because the student isn't ready, but tomorrow or the next day, at some point, it will be revealed. So they're just relative concealment. Then there's a concealment that's be'etzem concealed no matter what. It's not a matter of time. It always remains concealed. It would be the equivalent of, let's say, in our own lives, that contrast is like the teacher may never reveal the essence of what he is really like to the student. Not because he doesn't want to, because some things are just not revealable. Like you say, liba lepuma legalia. The deepest part of the heart a person can't reveal. There's certain things that are not expressible. It doesn't mean we can't get them, by the way, but they don't come out through words or something like that. They just fundamentally always remain an intimate part of who you are. That's like talk about quantum mechanics. That's like the area that remains before human beings measure it. It remains in that amorphous state. As soon as you measure it, it's already not that state. It's now come down into the so-called conscious, deterministic universe. But in the indeterministic level, there's a fundamental state that just remains where it is. And it's the way it's supposed to be. So he's saying, Primis Chachmas Tima always is Sasam Benelam Betzim, is that higher level. It remains concealed fundamentally. But the interesting thing is not, my example is not completely correct. Because he is saying it comes in, well, I'm not sure, I have to think about it.
Yeah, it's still
the Tainug does come
it's still
a Gilui, because the Tainug does come into that Chachma. Okay, let's see what he says.
In the house, you're saying?
Huh?
His house
No.
in the house?
The house is his example, that's not my example. That's
What's
the
the
Rebbe
example
Shai.
you're talking about?
No, the one I just said, forget about
I
it.
gave a whole kit of what we were learning to my son Nassim yesterday. And that was the one point I couldn't explain to him. How is Etzem Chachma? I couldn't give it
No,
to
but you
him.
have to go back to that period.
Yeah.
That's why he used the example with the house. It's a beautiful example. It's very radical, actually. because he's saying something. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I saw it elsewhere. I'm sure it says in the Chassidus elsewhere. It's not.
There was the timing of the person is in the.
No, it says Pnimi
construction.
Saba, Pnimi Satik.
Right.
It says in many places, but the explanation that
The design and the construction is based on his timing.
no, it's based on his Tainug. That's Poshet. That the Chochmah is Tainug. It's just
That's a big jump. That the timing, which is really Atzmus.
But you see it, you see the Pel. You know you see the Pel? The guy sets out to do a job, right? And it costs $100,000 and it ends up $200,000 because the guy tells him you're spending for the molding anyways $2 a foot. Spend $4 a foot. It makes no sense when he buys it. $4
well, just for the record, it's Peirik Reish.
Timing is one limitations.
Yeah.
And then it brings in
But that could be more pride.
No, it's
Okay.
not pride because it makes no difference because no one knows what's inside the wood. It's painted over.
Just for the record, he's referring to this. This, if you want to really,
It has to be better.
if you want, it's Peirik Reish Gimel is the chapter 203 where he explains it more at length. Remember the whole Nefesh HaMaskeles. Okay, now I look at it, I see already.
Which one? Reish Gimel?
Reish Gimel. If you look at the bottom third of the page, bottom quarter of the page, it says "Ube'emes ha'tainug atzmei hu shenas b'chinas seichel v'chochma." L'chein haskol hu k'fi ifn ha'tainug. And then he gives the example. Al derech moshel mi shereitze. Let's just read it a second. Al derech moshel mi shereitze b'binyan bayis, like a person who wants to build a house. He wants a house built. V'yesh li tainug b'inyan habayis. He has pleasure in the inyan of this bayis. V'reitze lasoisi b'peil, and he wants to create it in action. He wants to actually create it. U'machmas ha'tainug hari mamtzi b'keich ha'maskel shabay. And because of the tainug, he's mamtzi. He conceives of ideas with the keich ha'maskel, with his intellect, with his mind. Haskolis b'eifin sir chedrei habinyan v'avonim nois ad lahafli. Comes up with brilliant ideas, all kinds of ideas in the form of the shape of the rooms of the building and beautiful stones. Ad lahafli, to the point of unbelievable wonder. He's specifically saying that. In other words, it's not just I'll build myself a shack.
Right.
He uses chachma to the fullest of chachma. You see, the pleasure just defines that he wants a house and he wants the best possible house. The chachma now goes into motion and figures out every possible way to make the most
Why is
beautiful.
that not a tool?
It is a tool, but it is
saying
tainug.
it
It doesn't exist without a no. It's not a hammer. A hammer is another outside force that actually doesn't act. If someone looks at the hammer, it's not a reflection. This is tainug in chokhmah. It's different, for example, how chokhmah comes into midas. It's a whole different world. Or how chokhmah uses, like I said, the fingers of your hand. That's not the same thing. The fingers are not tainug. The fingers are just an expression and actually conceal.
So the whole process, the whole Seder Estalus,
Anyway.
after that, you can say the same argument that's also tiny.
No, you can't. Because only Chachma is the one that really innovates it all. Everything else, once the Chachma goes ahead and hires people, for example, to put the bricks in, those people are not Tainug. They may not even know what Tainug is. They're hired, they don't even know what your plan is. Chachma is Tainug in action, basically. Think of it that way. You hire electricians. They build a plan. They do know, they don't
Tiny
know.
as a gila.
No, but it's the manifestation of the timing is Chochmah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he explains it.
But he says it is tiny, but it is...
What's that?
You do get...
Hold on. Let's finish the line. The Bekoyach HaTainug lo hoya kol proteham tzaz b'tzurim hanoim v'seder habinyan. In the Tainug, you wouldn't have all the details and all the ideas of all the different shapes, the beautiful shapes, and how to organize
He
the
wants a
building.
beautiful house.
Alpha became lo hoya koyach hamaskil mamsi. Kol haskolos, kol hasichlim, rak mekeich hatainuk. And the other way around, there'd be no chachma if there was no tainuk. Because no one's in...
there could be chachma to a practical level.
Fine, but he's not saying, I'm talking about here in this context. There's no chachma. Remember, we're talking about ma'ila, there's no pleasure. If God doesn't have a taiva, there's nothing. Nothing exists.
Right.
Okay, so it would not have come up with any of these ideas. It only comes from the time. And after the building is finished, and he walks and takes strolls in this building, and has pleasure from the great intense beauty of this building, that the tainug is a primi and atzmi, that he has fundamental pleasure mamish from this building.
What if I have a tainug that I want to
One second. Continue. But, however, when does he have pleasure? Dafke kashabinyan nasa pin gzedus chachmase. Only after the building was done according to the command and to the directions of Chacham. He's skilled mitchila ba'ifan abinyan, that he planned it earlier accordingly in the way to build. V'nasa came b'mechuven b'chol aprotim, and he did it exactly the way it was according to the plan of Chachma. Oz misanig be'etzem nafsh. Only then does he have this time.
Right now he's saying that he's saying Chachma leads to the ultimate tainig. Or it starts. It does not. It doesn't. It's fine. It's not saying that Chachma. If I want to have a plan that I want to become a real Baal Tshuva, and I get such a tiny one if I would become one, and I even have a tiny figure.
And then you start figuring out ways how to do it.
And I realize it's so hard that I lose my tiny right away.
No, but he's saying something over here. He's saying over here that if you don't get it, you're not satisfied with 99%.
One second. V'im yechser by davar. And if something's missing, it was not done according to the plan of the seichel. This battle hatainug, the tainug gets is legamri she'ena misane b'klal. They won't have any pleasure because it was yeah.
He'll say, 1 second, you got most what you wanted. You wanted a house, okay, so it's not perfect, but you got it.
Anyway, he concludes harizeh hira gemura. So this is a complete proof, a complete demonstration she'achachma hu hatainug. That the chachma is tainug. Because both ways, it works both ways. Because that which he conceived of earlier, but Eifani Habinyan, how the building should be struck, but Eifan Kach v'Kach, in this way, Dafka that way, because the whole reason he did all that seichel was not for any other reason except an expression because of the pleasure that he has within. But in the tainug level, it's in the form of pshitus. It's completely amorphous. It's completely, how would you define pshitus? Doesn't have any shape and form, undefined. And that's why dafke, when you build according to the chachma, azum is sanig boy. That's when he has pleasure. Lefisha chachma hu tainug, because the chachma is tainug. 1 second. It's only that it manifests in the form of chachma seichel. V'zeu shebechachma tainug b'chinas eslapshus pnimi. Hainu shatainug hu tzibas hachachma shemaskel b'keich hachachma rak mitzad hatainug. Hu atzmei hu shenasa b'chinas chachma seichel. Okay, it's very clear. That's what he says. You can go on to explain it, but that's what he's referring to here. I mean, I just want to add. To me, it's pretty clear. But I'll just add one thing. Maybe this will help. What was I going to say? I'm going to say like this. There are many things that cause us to do certain things. Like you gave an example. It's very true. If the tainug, for example, is to go and you mentioned that you have tainug for something, and then you end up start doing it. It becomes very painful. And then sometimes you even lose your time.
You know, and your chachma knows it's going to be
but that's not at all the level. That's not what we're talking about here. If that happens, you can rest assured it's either not tainug or it's wrong, using the wrong tool. That's not the case here. You see, chachma and tainug that would be a sign that you really don't want it. That's not maybe necessarily your pleasure because you're not ready to do whatever it takes. But I don't think something uncomfortable is a good example. I think I'm just trying to find a contrast. What would not be like chokhmah? As I said, I think the best example is once you go ahead and hire the contract, hire different workers and details, they're already not connected to the tainug. That's no longer the tainug. The chokhmah is simply the way tainug shapes in a world of definition. And after chokhmah, bina, das, chesed, gvura, no longer have that connection, because you don't say primis bina, primis atik, primis das, primis atik. You only say it by primis abba, primis atik. Actually, it does say it by bina somewhere, but that's a separate discussion. You don't say primis chesed is primis atik, because once you go into other manifestations, they're already another level outside of this. Chokhmah is like the so-called the twin, the keser, or atik, or tainug, that basically takes the undefined and puts it in the defined. That's really how I think he says it, as he's saying, which in our context is very relevant because that's the interface. It's how the undefined of tainug. I mean, remember, tainug also is still a level, but it's completely removed, as we said. Think of it the other way. Let's make believe we didn't have chokhmah. So you would have stuck with your pleasures. I'm talking about again kedusha, with nowhere to go. You couldn't do anything with it. Because it doesn't inform another level. Chokhmah gives it structure. Chokhmah says, okay, tainug itself, for example, cannot define this type of beautiful stone, this how big the room should be, because tainug doesn't have such tools. Tainug is so undefined; it doesn't know what it means the size of a room. Doesn't understand parameters even. It just wants something. It wants what's the pleasure? The pleasure of having a home that you live in. He doesn't even explain what the pleasure is, but let's assume what's the pleasure of a home. I don't know if it's just shelter. It's the idea that you have something that you are comfortable with, where you can rest. Well, let's say the ultimate home is the Beis Hamikdash. The Eibishter said, "V'asu the Migdash, v'shachanti b'seichel." I want a place where I can rest. Now he couldn't rest anywhere else. Clearly, the Beis Hamikdash is built in a way where kedusha, where elokus, feels comfortable, whatever that means. So that has a certain essential taiva or tainug, and then then Moshe Rabbeinu, B'tzal, whatever, they come up with a plan, and it's like chokhmah figuring out all the details. Anyway, that's how best to write. Let's go back here. I get too stuck on one line here.
I just want to say a practical application.
But this is a deeper concept, yeah.
A practical application. When you were saying this, I was thinking that somebody that's very creative, right, could get stuck in perfectionism much more than somebody is a project manager or a CEO to get it done. Why? Because by him, he's more involved in the timing, so the timing is not letting him finish. He's always trying to get it perfected. He's trying to connect to that timing.
So he's not really chachma.
That's the problem. He's in timing. He's creative.
Okay.
And he has the big juices, and he's never getting that satisfaction. So he's continuing. A hack and a hack and a hack. Mashenkin, the other guy that doesn't have the timing, says, "What do you want done? You want this? I'll get it done for you. There's X, Y, Z, this, that. You build it."
The problem, the concern I have with that is because then it's not the same. You see, here it is the same entity in two levels. But okay,
that's what he's trying to find. His
timing must have. Okay, got it. Okay. So anyway, so Hariyakisa.
I know some people.
Huh?
I said I know some people.
Hariyakisa helam hu atman shazel atman tainug. Okay, so we're up to here. So therefore, zeu ina b'chinas astimus the primis chachmas temash asosam v'nelam ba'etzem. The commotion is boil the el perek reish zayin. They said he's tying it all together now. Okay, so what we just learned in that perek, by the way, is what he says here. Hainu shazeu atzmis hatainig mamash v'nasa b'chinas chachma u'b'sem esalam b'chinas hatainig ba'atzmi v'hu b'chinas helam gamo. Okay. And this is the primis of Chachmas Timok, which is Borleo Perek Rezayin. The primis Chachmas Timok, primis Makiv, the Erchezus Shesosum Ba'etzem. As we learned before in Perek Rezayin 207, that the primis of Chachmas Timok is the Makiv of Erchezus, not the Makiv of Yosher, which is Sosum Ba'etzem. It's essentially concealed. The Lechere in a moving, you lost the place?
No, right? Sosum Ba'etzem.
Yeah, we just said Sosum V'nelam Ba'etzem on the line before.
Okay.
Remember, Primis Chachmas Tema is a level of unconscious that's not relative to that does not become revealed in the conscious. It remains somewhat concealed. Remember the last chapter we learned how do you get there through Kabbalah sale, the whole thing doesn't just flow easily. I mean that's okay. The lechera in a moving, lechera is not understood. Mach shezel mashamaylim mechasal b'chinas atik. Since this is the level that conceals and covers on the level of atik, kepashtas losh nazer, k'moshin zboil il pedikuf tzadik bei shemechase, eichu b'chinas sosim be'etzim. Mach shezel rakamay levush hamaylim.
To go back.
I don't even understand the question.
He's asking if
In
it's...
Mach shezel mashamaylim mechasal b'chinas atik. This is heavy duty lines. Every line here is very complicated. I'm not sure that I'm looking at the answer to try to understand the question.
Yeah, I don't think we really understand interfaces.
What do we understand?
Isn't he asking someone over the Bepel that it is Milam, so that is has
Yeah,
to be
but it's not
separate?
mashma from the lotion like that. That would be nice. That would be nice. 1 second.
He's trying to say it's like a Levush. It's Milam.
Leave it open there, David.
Leave it. It's
No.
all right. The flies come in. My wife does. Maybe I'll just tell you a short story, so maybe it'll open the mind. I just heard it yesterday. In the Rebbe, all the years would only go to the oil. We'd go every Rosh Chodesh, twice a month, and 15th of the month. That was from the beginning of the Nesius. That's what the Rebbe would do, all the way back to Tafshin Yud, from Yud Shvara. He'd go often other times too, like Rosh Hashanah, other times. In the later years, as you may remember, the Rebbe started going almost not every day, but there were times a lot, 3-4 times a week, sometimes every day. Every day except once, Rosh Chodesh. He never went Rosh Chodesh.
I heard he went once.
This is the story.
Yeah,
This is the
yeah.
story.
Oh, yeah.
So the Rosh Chodesh of 20 years ago, yesterday, 20 years ago, was Rosh Chodesh. And in the morning, he tells Rabbi Groner, she tells Rabbi Klein to prepare the car. He wants to go to the mikveh, which means he's going to the oil. So Rabbi Groner says to the Rebbe, it's Rosh Chodesh. So the Rebbe says, "Was is Aaron HaKohen schuldig as heint is Rosh Chodesh?" Why is Aaron HaKohen schuldig? Why is Aaron HaKohen guilty? Why should he be hurt or something? Because today's Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh Av is Aaron's yahrzeit. That's what the Rebbe's answer was.
Wow.
Explain that one. That's his yahrzeit is Rosh Chodesh. But what's that schuldig as Rosh Chodesh? In other words,
He went to visit Aaron again.
in his chus, he went to visit, but that was the only time the Rebbe went Rosh Chodesh.
Rabbi Groner didn't ask for clarification of that.
No. I told you, the story I told you when with the letters? In the early 60s, the Rebbe told Rabbi Groner to create a database. I mean, there was no database, to create index cards with everyone who writes a letter to the Rebbe. So have a name and address on file, which makes sense. And the Rebbe wanted it, he said specifically, at the end of the year, anyone who wrote a letter will get a Rosh Hashanah greeting. The Rebbe would send out Rosh Hashanah letters to everybody. So he did it. After Shavuos, the Rebbe says to him, start preparing the letters, type them, the letter for Rosh Hashanah, and after Tisha B'Av, I'll start signing them and start sending them out. So he did it, start typing. After the 3 weeks, the Rebbe called, he gave the Rebbe the letters. The Rebbe started signing. There was a lot of letters, hundreds and hundreds of letters. And then he comes in one day to the office and he sees there's 2 piles. One big pile that the Rebbe signed. The other pile, I don't know if the Rebbe signed, but there's another smaller pile. So the Rebbe says to him, this pile are people that already are Navek. In the interim, there are people who passed away. So the Rebbe took them out of the
pile of letters.
Okay, so Groner takes the big pile to mail, and he takes the small pile, I guess, to discard or whatever. So the Rebbe says, where are you taking it? He says, the Rebbe says, Shen Havek. The Rebbe said, they also need to have a Shana Teva. And the address where to send it, you probably don't know. So leave it here. Isn't that unbelievable? So from then on, he told me that he started every year, he writes a pan for Rosh Hashanah, also for his parents. that are after. Because he said the Rebbe said they also need a Shana Tov.
Unbelievable.
That's a very big answer, huh? The address you probably don't know where. Yeah.
So what did he physically do with those?
So this is the
letters?
address
What
somewhere
did
in
he
Pnimis
physically-
HaTainug, I don't know.
What did he, you don't know what he physically did with those letters.
If I knew I'd be a Rebbe, you know. Okay, so maybe these stories will help break open the Makiv. Wow, this is dense. This is very dense. This needs. I mean, I didn't. I need to study it a little on my own to figure this out. But let's just read what it says. Huh? But one second, you can't go without. You can't leave without an answer to the question. Let me just.
I thought it was very dense at the start.
You know, it's just a few lines. Since Chochmah is what conceals Atik, and that is what the Zohar says, so that's clear. Oh, okay, I know what he's asking. No, he's asking a different question. Since Chochmah, he's talking now, he said now that Primi is Chochmah, Stima is Sosum Be'etzem, it's fundamentally Sosum. Not Tainug is Sosum Be'etzem. That we know. Chochmah. But since Chochmah is Eichel B'chin Sosum Echachashu Zadak Levush HaMailim. Because at the end of the day, it's concealing, but it's also revealing. It's like a garment that conceals but reveals. So how could you call it Sosum Be'etzem? Remember we said that the Tainug comes into Chochmah. So the Tainug is Sosum. The Chochmah is not.
The other way around. Yeah?
No, the Chachma is awesome.
No.
The Tainug is revealed because there's no concealment. It's not shaykh to kli. So the
Yeah,
other way-
but that's called Sosum Be'etzem. That's what means Sosum Be'etzem. He said that before.
No, but he's saying, where is the Sussum part? The Sussum part is...
But Rakshuzeu Rakamei Levush HaMailim. What's Zeu?
Chachma.
That's Chochmah. So how could you say Chochmah Sosum Be'etzem? I think it's talking about Chochmah here.
Right, he is talking about Chachma. Chachma is becoming the Mailim for the Tanuk.
Yeah.
So if it's the Mailim for the Tanuk, he's not Megala. He's only Megala part of it. Another part is not. And so then it's not Be'etzem. It's because Chachma is Sussum.
He does say that. It says at the top of the page that the Tainug is
Close.
also hidden. It's hidden.
Hidden.
Yeah, no, but Tainug, that's Sosum Be'etzem. That's the same thing as Sosum Be'etzem.
By definition.
Right.
So what is Sosum Be'etzem?
But
Chochmah
Gilead
Sosum
means
Be'etzem and
part of
Tainug
his
is not.
clothes.
That doesn't make
Gilead
sense.
is closed.
Tainug is
Now,
even
Gilead has
more
contrast.
removed.
Tainug only became hidden when he came into something in shaykh to kli. There we can call it Sosum Be'etzem. We call it Sosum Be'etzem because the Tainug itself becomes something that's hidden. But the Tainug is in its...
So what are you saying? But so what is the question then?
I'm not sure what the question
No,
is.
but the question, Sosum Be'etzem is
It's in the Chachma.
we're saying the Chochmah is Sosum Be'etzem. So he's asking a question. How could you say it's Sosum Be'etzem when Chochmah is like a Levush HaMailim, which means it's like a garment that
His
conceals.
question here is on the Etzem.
The question here
No,
is-
it's on the Chochmah for
He
sure.
just referred-
No, but Chachma Be'etzem. What's the part? He's saying
It's the questions on Pnimius Chochmah Stima, that's Be'etzem Sosum. That's for sure. That's not even a question. That's
and
what it's
the
question.
question is not on Tainug itself.
No,
No.
because he says Serem Kazeu Rakamay Levush HaMailim.
Sure.
Anyway, let's finish the answer. Al pi hanal nicha, but according to what we said before, it's understood. She'ein zeh kamei levush, because it's not like a levush. Kim shuzeh helam atzmi v'hainu shuzeh atzmis atik mamish. In other words, chochmah is helam atzmi. It's mamish atzis matayit atik mamish tainug. Shenasa b'chinas chochmah stemeh u'bezeh davke hu mesalim.
right.
Hari b'chinas chochmah stemeh kamei atik mamish b'chinas astima shesosum be'etzem.
No, it's not Chachma is not separate from Tanuk. That's what he's saying. He's not-
Mayor,
yeah.
you're maybe smarter than the Rebbe Rashab.
No.
But the Rebbe Rashab asked a question.
I know.
But you don't have a question. He
I
has
do
a
have a
question.
question. I do have a
He has a
question.
question. We're trying to understand his question. You're saying there's no question because you understand that.
No, he's saying the question. He's just going back. He's saying after finishing the whole thing.
Okay, look. We are trying to understand the
Yeah.
question. You have a question?
Yes.
What's the question?
The question is that if it's Asum, and it's Chachma, that's a separate thing. It's not the timing that's
That's
Asum.
not what he said. There's no such question like that.
Well, so then what does it mean? Eichu b'chin,
How could you say Chochmah Sosam Be'etzem when it's like a Levush Hamaylim
on what?
on a Tainuk?
Exactly. So that if it's Revush Hamaylim,
So what's the question?
that can be Sasum Betzem. Sasum Betzem means itself is Sasum. It's not itself.
Okay, so
It's a separate
that's
thing.
the question.
That's
And then he answers that according to what we discussed,
Right, it doesn't.
Mayor, what
I'm-
you understand? I don't understand.
No, I don't understand.
You understand? Fine. I'm trying to understand. What do you want?
I
me
don't
to do?
understand the answer. I understand the
I'm
question.
not sure your question. Your question seems to be. His question seems to be repetitive of what,
Right.
what we were saying before. What's the chiddush in his question here?
You can't even agree whether we understand it or not. I trying to understand it. You understand it or you don't
No, I
understand
don't.
I need an explanation of your
Okay,
question.
so I thought you just said you do understand. Oh.
I need explanation of the question. He seems to be
Okay, no,
repeating the
Exactly.
question.
To me,
and
it seems the
question
same way. It
was-
seems
No,
like
no,
saying
no.
over what he said before and just repeating it again.
Let's start from scratch. The Zohar says, remember he brings the Zohar.
Mm.
The Zohar says that Chachma is a sisa pella, which is Chachma is kisui v'levusha d'nehera da'atika. It conceals and covers the light of Atik. And they explained till now what that means. But if you think of the Zohar itself, there's a question. How could you say that Chachma is Sasim Be'etzim, when really it's a level lower than Sasim Be'etzim? You could say the Tainug is Sasim Be'etzim, is fundamentally concealed. The Chachma is already a Levush that's concealing, yes, that level. And how could you say it's Sasim Be'etzim? That's the simple question. So yes, it's true, he discussed it, and he's going to use this as an answer. That's what he says according to above, but he's going back to the Zohar and trying to explain the Zohar. What is the meaning behind the Zohar? So and the answer is, yes, we already got the essential answer before. But the reason he goes back to the question is not because he has a question on what he's written. He has a question back on the Zohar. You see the parentheses. Pashas Osna Zohar. And so then he says, according to our discussion and our explanation, we now can understand it because it's not a lavush.
But there's nothing new in the question. In other words, we had the same, basically we had the same question in the Zohar, now he's just repeating it in the context of the Zohar, the answer.
Yes.
Okay. Continue. I'll catch the rest now.
Had beginnes Chacham stmel beginnes Atik mamish, beginnes Astimus Shasosum Be'etzim.
Can we repeat this tomorrow? This is too different.
Well, you didn't answer me. You changed it up, didn't
I couldn't find it.
you? Seriously?
I said I did before. I don't really even know about
Okay, we're stopping here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, we stop here. We continue page, the middle of chapter Reish Chav Dalet.
2 o'clock.
And we'll continue. Okay.
No flan.
I can't do this every day, I don't get unlimited time.
Well, you can do it tomorrow, Simon. We're here tomorrow. Yeah?
Why not?
it.